Very excited to talk to you today. There are so many people who know your voice and have lived your voice for so long when it comes to all the characters you've done. And I love talking to voice actors because of the fact that you create like their memory. Like when they hear that in their head, like that's you. You're the memory going forward. I mean, do you take that into heart when you see kids or when you have a chance to kind of go to a con or things like that?
Yeah, it's amazing to me when someone recognizes me as a voice actor. It's different to recognize the sound of somebody's voice than the look of their face. So I remember years ago when I had a lot of shows on the air playing a video game in a movie theater that I was just attending as a fan myself. And I think I lost in the video game. I was like, oh man, using my normal voice. And some people just stopped dead in their tracks and said, wait a second, are you Joshua Seth? And that was the first time I realized that what you are saying is true. People connect the memory of the character with the sound of the person's voice. Our voices are very powerful and they carry the weight of our full personality and all of our history with them. So there's a little piece of me in Tai and every character that I
For
have
sure.
ever voiced. It's true.
And with Tai and with Digimon too, I mean, if you look at being part of this franchise, I mean, they've grown up with you too. I mean, all the kids,
Right.
if your kids watching this right now, I mean, they're excited because they knew the first time they saw Digimon and they got a chance to meet all the characters, but they grow up with you too, which is kind of a little bit of the theme of this Digimon adventure too, right?
It really is. Well, the theme of Kizuna, I think, and I just watched it last night with my own kids, which was an amazing experience, that they are old enough to really understand the theme of the movie and also understand that it's daddy's voice. Because I remember in Try, when Try first came out, and I'd go to the movie theater with my kids, they were too young to really connect it, that that's me that they're hearing. But now they get it, and they got the theme. And the theme of Kizuna, I believe, is that you can't do anything about change. We're all going to grow up. We're all going to experience loss, and you have to grow up someday. You have to accept change and loss, and that is the way of the world. And if you resist that, it's going to create pain. It's going to create difficulty because you're fighting the inevitable, and it's that fight that plays out in Digimon Kizuna.
And the one cool thing is, even though your characters have aged, your Digimon, you had to kind of age them quickly as they evolved too, right? So there was always that jump to the next Digimon voice and the next Digimon voice and the next one too. So how do you do that, the process in your head where you're like, this is how a more powerful version would sound like?
Right. Well, with Ty, I have had the unique experience as a voice actor to play him as just a little kid, a real little kid, like in the first movie, to about 10 years old, a young kid, as Ty was in the series, to a teenager in Try, and then to a full adult, like in Kazuna. And unlike most other characters that I've played, Ty has always been, as you can hear, Ty has always been my own voice, just tweaked up a little bit. So that has made it easier for me to maintain a consistent sound and feel for Ty because Ty is my voice, just pitched up a little bit and made more aggressive than I would normally would be. And if you recall, at the end of Kazuna, I really dropped his voice down into about the lowest that I go,
Right.
like as a human being, as a person, and it felt very true to the theme of the movie and authentic to who I am as the actor for the character.
Right. Well, the fun thing about, animated and cartoons and, you being a voice is all these kids who watch these shows, if they're playing with the toys or they're jumping around, they make their own voices too, and they get to be part of it as well. So I have to ask, when you first started making voices and you started to kind of lean towards this in your world, what were some of the fun voices you first started out with?
What a great question. Okay. So I had kind of hippie parents and they wouldn't let me watch TV. We didn't have any TV in the house, if you can believe it. And this was pre-internet because I'm so old. But I had a cassette tape player and they were called at the time the golden age of radio. And I would play old shows like The Lone Ranger, The Ovaltine Hour, and Jack Benny, and they're just names of shows that most people wouldn't even know anymore. And I got these old character voices from, the 30s, the 40s, and the 50s stuck in my head. And those are the references that I go to for, not for Digimon, because that has a more realistic tone, but for a lot of the other work that I have done over the years is it predates animation. And then when I started watching cartoons when I was a little bit older as a kid, it was stuff like the Grape Ape and the Hanna-Barbera cartoons. Or, here's a little insider info for you. You know the character Motimon from Digimon? That's me doing my impression of a character from my childhood called Shmoo from the new Shmoo show, which nobody remembers. But let's see. Motimon sounds like this, and the Shmoo sounds like this. It's the same, right?
Well, that's okay. You know, that's the thing. When it comes to voice actors, everyone has their pinnacle and the people they learn from too. I mean, everyone can talk about the new cast will talk about you and Dee, and then you go to people who will talk about Mel Blanc and the things that he did too. So, I mean, I still laugh.
Butler.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many great up there. I remember I had a great conversation with a voice actor once about, Mel Blanc doing Donald Duck, doing Daffy Duck, doing Bugs Bunny, doing Daffy Duck again. Like there's just all these different levels to all these things too, and so that's it's not an easy job. Sometimes you have to really want to do it and also give the character your all, right?
Oh, absolutely. And it helps to have a background in theater and improvisational acting and comedy. Like what you're talking about, doing one character, playing another character, somebody like Carlos Alisraki, who's the voice of the Taco Bell Chihuahua. Like he does that sort of thing really well. Or Frank Welker, who's the voice of so many animal
Starscream.
Yeah, like the improvisational comedy aspect of the job is always important, even in something like Digimon where it's already scripted. We do have the opportunity, as if you've seen the featurette for Kizuna, they show me rewriting some of the lines and changing it on the fly. We have the opportunity to do that. And my background in theater, in musical theater, and in live performing, that has helped me enormously as a voice actor for that reason.
And the beauty of these characters is you have different opportunities to give them different action and different fun adventures to be on too. But also they always have the same heart and they have the same connection too. So, when you are part of something like this, I know you started with, darker tales like Akira, but now you kind of fallen more into a fun world with Digimon that I think is always kind of interesting because it's something that is endearing, but it also teaches lessons too. So do you enjoy, the opposite of, scaring people with adventure and horror kind of stuff, and then kind of coming back here and being like, you know what, this is a lesson learned?
It's a really good point, and especially now that I'm a father, that is important to me, that I represent characters that have a positive impact on the viewer. You mentioned Akira, and for me, that's the favorite thing that I have ever voiced. Tai gave me a career, and Tai, I feel like, is a part of me, especially because it's my own voice. But Akira is the movie that got me into wanting to be a voice actor in the first place. When I watched the original Akira when I was a film school student at NYU in New York City, Akira was playing in a art house theater there, and I've got an Akira poster staring at me right now in my home office. But you're right, it's a very sort of dark tale, and I don't want my kids watching that. On the other hand, I was fortunate enough to play a character like Tai for all these years who represents courage. He's literally the crest of courage, and we could all use more courage and the quality of being courageous against insurmountable odds, or even when we are fearful, doing the right thing, taking the courageous action. I think that's a noble pursuit, not just in Digimon, but in life. So I'm fortunate as an actor to be able to represent that.
So now for the kids out there who want to be the next generation of voice actors, what do you tell them about how to do it, but also to take care of themselves too, because their voice is a muscle and an instrument, and they can hurt it if they go too crazy. I'm sure when you first started out and you were doing Tetsuo for Akira, you were probably, doing it so hard. Your voice at the end of the day was probably just raw.
I've been pretty good about that because, as I mentioned, I have a background in musical theater, and I did a lot of musical theater tours when I was a kid. So we learn how what you are saying is true. The voice is an instrument. And I actually teach this online now. I have these monthly voiceover classes, and I put together a PDF of suggestions of how to take care of your voice and how to strengthen your voice so that you can play all the notes in that instrument, because most of us are just playing a very few right in the middle of the range and pushing it in a way where you can't end the day as strong as you began. When you do understand how to use that instrument properly, then it'll serve you well for your whole life and only get better with time and with use. So that is all very true. It makes me wonder if you've actually seen or read the stuff that I put out on this, because that's what all my online training is about. Since coronavirus caused me to stay at home for 6 months now and counting, I have put together all this material that fans have asked about, and I've never had an opportunity to do, on how to become a voice actor, or actually doing these monthly Zoom calls with people that want to improve their skill set as voice actors. And it's been really gratifying, because there's no way I would have been able to do that if not for this Zoom environment. I mean, we're recording this on Zoom right now. I'm in Florida. Where are you right now?
I'm in Las Vegas, actually.
There you go. So, and it brings us all together.
Yes.
So there's always at least two sides to every coin. As difficult and horrific as this global pandemic has been, it offers the opportunity for innovation, for growth, for renewal, and for new voice actors to make a career for themselves, voicing from wherever they live. They don't need to be in Los Angeles right now. You can be anywhere with this is $100 mic that sounds like $1,000 mic. and I have a $100 mixer on my desk, and I recorded pickup lines for Kizuna right here on this mic from home in Florida, 3,000 miles away from the studio. And you would never know the difference.
Right. No, and that's the beauty of technology too, especially now that there's a lot of kids out there who can use their parents' phones, and there's a bunch of fun apps, whether it's TikTok or even some of the animating apps to do it too. Yeah. So what you're talking about teaching, I guess, if I can just ask really quickly, what would you tell kids out there if they're gonna create a voice themselves? Let's say their first new voice they want to do and create a voice and add something to it. What would you tell them? Like, how would you tell them to go after it, or how would you tell them to kind of expand, what their voice is and try to make something?
Okay. I'm going to give you two pieces of advice. First, know thyself, age-old advice, right? Before you work on becoming somebody else, first work on becoming yourself, because the better you know yourself, the more you have to work with. So that's number one, is committing to be an authentic person. The artistic pursuit is the pursuit of truth and beauty in all its forms and in all art forms. And that starts with knowing yourself and having integrity and being authentic and opening yourself up to listening in conversations and responding with your whole heart and soul. The more you do that, the more you get comfortable with it, and the better you will be. Well, I'm homeschooling my kids because of coronavirus, and it's giving me their schedule. So that's number one. Before you work on putting on another person's voice, work on being the best version of your own voice that you can be. My second advice is think about how you can change the building blocks of voice to layer them in such a way as to create new characters. So there's a difference between tone and pitch, for instance. Pace will change things if you speed up or you slow down. Having quirks or vocal archetypes, like somebody that has a very raspy voice, or somebody who places it in a more nasal version like this, or even like that. Okay, so let's work with this. All right, so I just stuffed my nose up like this. Okay, and if I slow it down a bit, it can sound more professorial. If I stretch it out a bit like this, it'll sound like droopy. If I speed it up a bit like this, it sounds like a completely different character. If I put on a bit of a rasp in addition to it, I can sound more like an old Western codger. And I'm doing that off the top of my head, but this comes down to understanding the instrument that is your voice and being able to just play different notes like you're a jazz musician. That opens you up to innumerable possibilities.
Well, that's fantastic. And, the one thing I love about everything along this line is the imagination is what really takes you to the next level. Your imagination, your mind is what really allowed you to create all these other voices in the way you kind of just showed the different little steps and the growth there too. And that's really the beauty of not only Digimon, but I think cartoons too, is, everyone out there, all the kids who get a chance to watch this, it's about your imagination and allowing yourself to kind of, become yourself, but then, becoming more too, and trying to, be those characters and have fun with it too. So I want to thank you very, very much for talking with us today.
Thank you so much. This has been a great interview, and you're absolutely right about that. You can achieve whatever you want in life, and you're only limited by your own imagination. So believe in yourself and believe that those possibilities exist, and you'll start to realize them for yourself over time.
Right. And, whether it's whether you want to become a Digimon adventurer yourself in the future, or you just want to be somebody who gets to be part of making the cartoon, I think it's just got to be about believing in yourself and then having fun along the way, too.
And having the courage to take action on that belief. That's what Tai would say. So I'm saying it too.
All right. Well, we are very excited for this adventure. The last evolution of Kizuna is so much fun. I think kids are really going to enjoy. So thank you very, very much, Joshua Seth. You are awesome. And I'm sure all the kids out there agree with me.
Thanks. I appreciate it.